And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Thursday mornings, flying weather showing some IFR out here, mostly out over the central Bering Sea. They're extending down over the western Aleutians, actually only over Kiska Island, and some IFR here over the eastern Chukchi Sea area. So the entire Arctic coast north slope all the way down into the Gulf of Alaska, VFR, some marginal VFR, Shelikof Strait, and around the coast of southern Kodiak Island. Good VFR here over the southeast coast with kind of an area of marginal VFR there extending in over Prince of Wales Island eastward to Misty Fjords. And then for the afternoon, IFR spreads into the western central Arctic coast up there. Otherwise, no change in the interior. Good VFR flying, and northern panhandle VFR to the south marginal, and pretty good conditions here over the eastern Bering Sea, especially the northern areas, right up until you hit the marginal VFR there in the Bering Strait, and the front out here to the west producing a band of IFR there from Amchitka Island to Shimianitu. And then for the Friday morning time, we've got a pretty good low pressure area tracking eastward there just over the Arctic Ocean, with the trough extending down into the Arctic coast north slope area. So that's producing quite an area of IFR there. That's moving from west to east, but south of the Brooks Range, right into the Gulf of Alaska, VFR, Kodiak, VFR, all of the southwest coast here, northern Bering Sea, VFR, with marginal conditions expected for the Pribilof Islands, as well as from roughly False Pass across the eastern Aleutians, IFR, Adak and Atka, and some more IFR with another disturbance out to the west. And for the southeast coast, mostly VFR. And then for Friday afternoon, marginal VFR in the increase here over the southern panhandle, staying VFR to the north. Gulf of Alaska, all the way into northeast Bristol Bay and the Aleutian Range here. In fact, most of the Alaska Peninsula VFR northward here. We've got some IFR slipping south of the Brooks Range there along the Porcupine River down in toward Fort Yukon. Also for the eastern Arctic coast, that area moving eastward there. So look for pretty good IFR, probably gusty winds, blowing snow, reducing visibilities there, possibly to low IFR. Otherwise, marginal VFR, Bering Strait there from Point Hope and Cape Lisburne. Good VFR here, Nunivak, St. Lawrence Island, and maybe the Pribilofs, although there's some scattered areas of marginal VFR here over the southeast Bering Sea. And then area of IFR here spreading in across Adak and Atka. And for the passes up north for the Brooks Range, Hanatuvik and Atigan, VFR expected for both passes for Thursday. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR. Rainy VFR, the entire Alaska Range forecast to be VFR, at least for the passes. And Mentasta, VFR. Tanita, VFR. And Portage, VFR, as well as Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels here, cold air, of course, pushing 2,000 feet all the way down south of the Gulf of Alaska, back up in toward Dixon Entrance there. And then 4,000 to 6,000 feet here over the Alaska Peninsula, 2,000 feet extending all the way up to St. Lawrence Island. And then for icing, could see some isolated moderate rime icing for the central western Arctic coast there, right along the coastline, maybe Point Hope, Cape Lisburne. Another area here with some leftover moisture, actually a front coming northward here, pushing an area of possible significant icing up to the eastern Aleutians, the Alaska Peninsula. And then the best chance of running into any significant icing would be here over the southern southeast coast. And for the jet stream, main jet here out in the northeast Pacific, so just clipping the Queen Charlotte Islands there with lighter winds to the north, with low pressure over the Northwest Territories, high pressure over the Bering Sea, cold north to south flow here, anywhere from 65 to 75 knots, and easterlies around the bottom side of this low with a high here with a low to the south, east wind 75 knots across the eastern Aleutians. And a big high here at 9,000 feet also, with westerlies at 60 knots coming into the western Arctic coast there, and Point Hope, Cape Lisburne coming around to the north, 40 to 50 knots across the central and western interior, back to the east at 60 knots there for the Alaska Peninsula eastern Aleutians. Pretty light winds here over the far eastern interior, right on down under this low along the eastern North Gulf Coast. That cold air coming down and then moving in, mostly to the south of the Panhandle there, or the strongest winds anyway. And for 3,000 feet, 45-knot winds for the Queen Charlotte's, much lighter for the southeast coast. Areas of outflow winds here from the north and northeast, anywhere from 45 to 50 knots. Prince William Sound, Copper River Delta, right through Cook Inlet here down to Kamishak Bay and Shelikof Strait. Northeast 40 to 50 knots coming down along the Yukon River Valley there, and west winds here, north side of this high, 45 knots hitting the western Arctic coast, and good winds here with that front, 65 knots for the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula, 50 knots for the Pribilofs. And for turbulence, with those winds, quite an area of considerable moderate turbulence here, Alaska Peninsula, all the way out to Adak and Atka. Areas of significant turbulence here over just about all of southern Alaska, and then also for the western Arctic coast there, and for the southern Panhandle as well.